Mini retirements are your path to more adventure, less stress, and greater fulfillment with Jillian Johnsrud. This week on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Extreme Personal Finance Show. I'm super excited to welcome my guest this week, Jillian Johnsrud. Jillian never really expected to retire early. So what she did was decided to retire often. So by the age of 40, she has taken over a dozen mini retirements, and this has allowed her to pursue her dreams like living abroad, exploring 27 different countries, adopting 4 children in addition to 2 of her own biological kids, and building a thriving real estate portfolio. And she even toured the US in a camper, which I'm kind of curious about. I can't wait to talk to her about it. Jillian's inspiring journey is detailed in her upcoming book, Retire Often: How Anyone Can Take Multiple Career Breaks to Unlock Adventure, advance their career, and find financial freedom. She also hosts the Retire Often podcast and is a popular speaker and consultant for mini retirements. Welcome to the show, Jillian. How you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We were talking just before, so our paths did cross. You did a talk at Economy Conference in the past.
Yeah, for the very first one 6 years ago.
Wow, wow. It's kind of you blink, and all of a sudden 6 years has gone
Yeah.
by, right?
Weird 6 years.
Right. I'm really excited to talk about, again, you have an upcoming book coming out later this summer.
September 9th.
Okay, awesome. September. So technically that's fall, right?
Just barely.
Yeah,
I
just
mean, it's
barely.
like still want to be summer, I think.
Yeah. I'm really curious. I had a lot of questions because there are things that go in my head about how, taking a break from your career, taking a break from work, some people may think it's kind of risky. Like,
Hmm.
how do I explain gaps in my resume, stuff like
Yeah.
that, right? There's things I get a lot of questions, but I have discussed on this show previously about how the traditional concept of retirement, like what we think of traditional retirement, is kind of like antiquated, right? It's just
Hmm.
outdated. And your book introduces this idea to retire often through what you're calling mini retirements. And I really like what really inspired this approach, but most importantly, why do you think it resonates with so many people today? So let's start there.
I think it resonates because, like you said, that traditional path of retirement, it just isn't relevant anymore. I think it made a lot of sense 50 years ago in the economy, in the social structure, that work 40 years straight, stay at the same company, stay in the same career, have a great pension. And honestly, 40, 50 years ago, your work-life balance was different. And in a way that I don't think we fully appreciate how much it shifted. My parents, even my parents in the 90s, we didn't have the internet. There was no email. There were no cell phones. Like, if we went on vacation, they couldn't call us. Like, we were just off every time we left town. We were off grid.
Right, right.
And and so that work-life balance was so naturally different. And I think there is this desire of like, how do we get back to the 90s? And I don't know if we can go back. We just have to figure out how to move forward. And what works moving forward is not one company 40 years for most people, it's switching companies. So it gives this perfect opportunity to take a little career break because that's how you're going to increase your lifetime earning potential. And instead of saying, I'm never going to be available after 5 p.m. Just say, what if every other year I took a month off so I could truly disconnect? So I could truly like rebalance that work-life balance. I think it's working with the current economy and finding the path forward. And I hope in 20, 30 years, mini retirements are just so commonplace. Everyone does them. I hope they're as commonplace as a weekend. Like you would never
Really?
start a job and say, hey, like I would really love to try to negotiate like weekends off. Like, is that a thing? Or you would go to your next employer and be like, yeah, so at my last job, I know it's a little weird, but we took weekends off. Like, I hope
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay. Like, it's a part of our normal work culture, and it's expected. And I think mini retirements will be the same.
Wow. Wow. Do you think? I mean, one thing that I'm always concerned about too is that if someone were to take some time off,
Hmm.
like maybe like a sabbatical,
Yeah.
right? But if they take some time off, many people think that it would be risky for their career, right?
Yep.
It would be, because then you need to explain these like gaps in your resume, but you feel as though it can really lead to professional growth and
Hmm.
their income potential. So explain a little bit how that works.
So two separate questions
Yeah.
there. The first one I'll tackle is explaining that gap in your resume because you do want to get ahead of this narrative. Like you don't want to wing it and you don't want anyone else to create the story for you or project
Mm,
maybe their fears or insecurities or biases on your lived experience. So you're crafting this story. And I tell people because I've done so much one-on-one coaching with this. So like I've had to work with actual people to create these things and
mm,
like hash it out in real time. I encourage people to add these four elements to their
okay.
story. This doesn't have to be long, a paragraph, two paragraphs, but four elements if possible. The first one is it has to be positive. So
Mm,
even if you're dealing with something kind of negative like burnout, you want to frame it in a really positive way. You want to do something that's really positive. The second thing is do something that's interesting. So not positive, not interesting would be, man, I'm so burned out. I just can't even deal with you people. Like I don't
right.
want to be here. I just want to go home and like nap for a month because I'm so tired. Not super positive, not super interesting. So positive, interesting. Then the third one is specific, which a lot of people don't think about doing something specific. But just as humans, specific things are more compelling than general things. So if you said, hey, I just want like a little bit more time off to, I wanted time off to spend with my kids. That's kind of positive, kind of interesting, but it's not specific. So if you said, hey, I wanted, time off, I had this 10-week road trip planned with my kids. We did 10 national parks. It's something I've always dreamed of. I needed 3 months between my last job and this job to go do that amazing adventure. And then the fourth one, if possible, is frame it as something that's a one-time event. There's a lot of things in life that we kind of assume you're not going to do more than once. Like most people hike Kilimanjaro once. They do. They hike the Camino once. Like you have your 40th birthday once. Your parents celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary once. You go on your honeymoon once, and so like to combine all four of those, an example would be, let's say you're negotiating this off with your current boss.
Okay.
You say, hey, my parents, they'd always planned to retire when they were 60. And their goal was as soon as they retired, they were going to bike through Croatia. Well, a few years ago, my dad passed away. My mom's turning 60 this year. She's retiring. I would love to take a month and do that bike trip with her. I think this would be amazing quality time. I want to help her fulfill that dream and have that time while she's still young and active and can do this. I have a week of PTO. I would need 3 more weeks of unpaid leave, but I've thought through some of the logistics of how we could cover my work when I'm gone. And you wrap those four elements and it creates a story that's really inspiring and interesting and like kind of rallies people around you to want to help you figure out how to do that.
Sure, sure. That's awesome. Yeah, because that was going to be one of my next questions was around, you mentioned earlier like burnout, right?
Yeah.
Because I think people, a lot of people were like, because I we were talking even before we started recording about how I was challenged at one point in my career thinking I needed to just take some time off,
Hmm.
right? And people may use this mini retirement to kind of recover from that burnout. Is building that narrative with those fourth like key things, making it positive, interesting,
Hmm.
making sure it's something specific, who is feeling deeply burned out
Hmm.
and they want to step away from their career for a bit. Is that, I mean, or I guess the next thing would be, do they step away not thinking they're coming back? Do they step away knowing they're going to go to somewhere else? I don't know.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is a really common question. If if you love your company, if you love your job, if you love the work environment, but
Hmm.
you are just like burned to the ground crispy, I would negotiate that leave of absence. And there again, you can still use those four elements. Like, gosh, I have loved working here and I see so much future. I've been pushing really hard, and maybe there's been some things in my personal life. I feel like if I could take, let's say, a month off or 3 months off, I have this plan. I want to do this meditation retreat. I have this plan to start hiking every day. I think I could get back to 100%.
Mm,
And I think when I come back, I'm gonna have like that creativity, that spark, that drive. Like I love being a high performer, and I know I haven't had the best boundaries, which is part of the reason I'm burned out, but I want to come back in a really healthy way.
oh, I love that. That is so
So
great.
if you want to come back, I would negotiate it off. And honestly, this is a question I get almost every time I speak at events. Like, is it okay to use my FMLA
Mm,
because I'm burned out? Like, and the question is almost like, is mental health really health? Like, can I care about my mental health like I care about my physical health? Yeah, it is.
yeah.
It's still health. And I encourage people because then there's this temptation of like a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, like, but maybe I could keep going. Like I'm still getting out of bed. I'm still pushing through. Like it's hard, but like maybe I could just keep pushing through. Maybe I don't have to take a break. And I compare it to like, okay, so you're at stage 1 cancer. Do you want to wait till stage 5? Like, is it better to get
Right,
treatment at
right.
stage 1? Or should you wait until like you need to do an outpatient program for 2 months because you've pushed yourself so far and it takes 2 years to recover instead of 2 months? Like, it's funny because like almost always in the audience, there's an HR person or
Right.
a mental health provider that work all day long and they're like, no, do it sooner than
Hmm.
later. Like take care of yourself sooner than later. It's so much of an easier problem to fix early than waiting till things get out of control and you start to burn other parts of your life down. So if you want to come back, I would negotiate it off. If you're like, I hate this place. This place is
Hmm.
part of the problem. Um, Personally, I would quit and find a new job afterwards. Like, because then that also gives you the flexibility of taking the time you actually need. Maybe 2 months is helpful, but maybe you get into 2 months and you're like, that wasn't the perfect dose. Like
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
could have used 4 more months of this.
What's the biggest way someone can get over the fact? Like I was brought up and my entire working career, like I would never leave a place
Hmm.
without having another job lined up. And so if
Yeah.
you're going to take this break, most likely you're not going to know where you're going to end up.
Hmm.
What's the biggest thing, I guess, advice you'd have for somebody that to give them the confidence to leave their current situation, not really knowing what the next job will be? I think that's super scary for me.
Yeah, it is. It is really scary for a lot of people. Um, so the first is a proactive, and the second is kind of realizing a little bit of the human nature here. So proactively, don't wing it. Like invest in your network, invest in that networking, make those connections, keep in touch with people while you're gone. Don't just disappear off the face of the earth. Um, and so in the book I have kind of I do a lot of examples. Like I like to just write out the conversation for people because when they see an actual conversation written out, they're like, okay, that makes sense. Um, so write out either like on a LinkedIn post or kind of your company wide, like I'm leaving, here's the new person taking over my stuff, kind of email like, hey, I'm going on this adventure. We're doing a 6 month like around the world trip. I'm so excited. I have loved working with you all. I love this industry and I'm really excited to come back to it. And then if it's appropriate, be like, if any openings come up, if you hear of anything, feel free to reach out. I won't be available for the next 6 months, but I would love to hear if something seems like a great fit. And so do that pre-work. And so that's the first half. That's on you. The
Mhm.
second half is just human nature. There is something really uncomfortable about other people not working. Like that it
Yes.
just like it opens the loop of something is wrong in the universe and we must fix it. And so even oftentimes when people early retire, if they're not really firm on that boundary, like y'all forget my number, I am not coming back. Um, Oftentimes people will reach out over the next year, like, hey, like, man, we got this thing coming up. Like, I had a friend who he was super nervous to retire early. And I was like, dude, just say you're taking a year off. Like, you don't know what's gonna happen. Just say I'm leaving for a year. Love y'all. Maybe who knows what the future holds. And then see how it goes. And if it goes great, say you're taking 2 years off. Um,
Right.
and he was like, Jillian, you would not believe how many people that first year or two were like, dude, we've got this project. It has your name all over it. Like, this is
Sure.
perfect for you. And he's like, it does not have my name all over it. Like, thank
Yeah.
you so much for thinking of me. It's not mine.
Right, right.
Yeah, now he teases me. He's 6 years into his 1 year mini retirement.
Oh, it's so funny. This has been great. So, like, what do you think one of the most common things when someone is planning to kind of like have this mini retirement, what do you think that certain thing, that certain step that people often overlook? Like, we've gone through a lot of strategy on like how to make it
Mm,
successful. What do you think something that, someone's planning to take a career break, they're going to do a mini retirement, but they overlook this one step? Like, is it healthcare? Is it like, what is that one thing they
mm.
overlook?
Yeah, I wish it were those things. Those things. It's funny. People always have, they have fears and concerns, and that's why I wrote the book to address all of those.
Yeah.
But what I hear, because I've heard hundreds of mini retirement
Hmm.
stories, it's not the budget that goes wrong. It is not finding the next job that goes wrong. It is not the healthcare that goes wrong. But a lot of things do go wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a lot of things go off the rails. It's just not the things that people worried about. Um, it's the things that they didn't plan for. And I would say, I mean, there's a lot of them, but one step to not skip is there is this temptation to be like, I have 3 months off or I have 6 months off. I can do 87 different things. I'm going to
Oh
have
gosh.
so much time. I'm going to have time to do all the things and everything's going to be awesome. And especially if they're burned out. Oh my God. Like, and I get it. We don't frequently recover from burnout, so we don't know what that recovery looks like. But it's a little bit like recovering from the flu. Like you are recovering. And so you're not yourself. You're just like when you're recovering from the flu, you don't feel like yourself. You feel like a different version of yourself, a tired version of yourself, a version of yourself who doesn't want to get out of bed, a version of yourself who doesn't want to exercise, a version of yourself who's not motivated to clean the whole house because you're recovering from the flu. Burnout's the same. And so people aren't anticipating once their body feels like, oh, I have access to rest, it leans in heavy. It's like, yes, I want lots of that. So they think they're going to be able to like maintain this like 60 productive hours, but just channel it into like their personal life. They might get 20 productive hours because their body's like, yay, rest. We finally get to rest. Um, and so they try to do 87 different things. They don't make much progress on any of them. None of them really go well. They're really frustrated because they're recovering from burnout. They start to internalize that means that they're a bad, lazy person. Why
Mm.
am I not motivated? Why am I not structured? Why am I not getting any of this done? Why can't I get through these tasks like when I was at work? And they start to create this crazy story of like, maybe I just need to be employed. Maybe I just need to be at work. Maybe I'm not a disciplined enough person
Yeah, I
to
need
retire.
structure. I need structure to,
Yes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can only be successful in that environment. And I'm like, so especially when I do group coaching, but I talk about it in the book too, like you just have to understand the process that's actually happening and tell yourself true and helpful stories. If you're in this whole spiral out because you're recovering from burnout and not getting stuff done and you want to take a nap, the story should not be, maybe I'm just a lazy, undisciplined person who can't survive outside of my work. That's a banana story. Your story needs to be, huh, looks like I'm more tired than I thought I was. good thing I'm on a mini retirement and can take a
Right.
nap today. Like, that's it. No unnecessary emotional suffering about it.
Right, right. I actually encountered a little bit of that when I retired early. Like you
Mhm.
said, I retired and I had all these things I was going to do. And I thought I could just flick a switch
Yep.
and now get all this stuff done. I was running 100 miles an hour. It was, those first 6 months were pretty bad. I mean, it started to like affect me. I was like, I had a
Uh-huh.
panic attack. It was like, it was
Yep.
crazy. Yeah, I had to like slow down and take
Hmm.
steps. And yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. So I'm sure that is one of the things people overlook.
Yes, and especially in the FI community, this is so common because if people haven't done mini retirements, it's kind of like you're starting a marathon, but you've never run a 5K.
Oh my gosh, exactly. That's a perfect analogy. Thank you.
Like you just don't, you've never practiced it before. You don't have the skill set. And I hear so many people who were kind of in that spot of like, yeah, I'm really burned out. I could use a mini retirement, but like I've got 5 more years. I'll just push through. And I kind of like if you think about it like a marathon, if someone said, "Yeah, I'm super excited. I really want to run this marathon, in a couple years." And you're like, "Oh, that's awesome. Like, do you do like 5Ks?" They're like, "No." So I've been listening to all the podcasts about running marathons. I've been reading some books about running marathons, but like my plan is I'm just going to sit at my desk 60 hours a week for the next 5 years, and then I'm going to start this marathon and I'm going to be awesome at it. And it's like, well, I don't know if it works that way.
Right, right.
And so many people, I've seen people push 10, 15 years through really demanding careers, retire early and think it's going to be awesome, and then go through what you did. And it's very untethering. It's very like it kind of messes with your head. And so 6 months in, you combine that with the fact that like all these amazing job offers show up, and 6 months in, 9 months in, they're like, but Jillian, the dream job came. The
Mm.
dream job came. So I'm going back to work, but like I've been thinking about my FI number and like maybe if I just save like if I just work for like 2 more years, then I could be like more fat FI and I don't have to worry about healthcare and I could like do like a 3% versus a 4% withdrawal rate and really this is the perfect plan. And I'm like, dude, whatever, it's your life. Like live it, enjoy it, I don't care. But if you would have taken a couple mini retirements, this would have gone a little bit smoother.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about you because you've been on a lot of mini retirements. I'd like to know out of all these mini retirements, is there is there one of them that was super memorable or like
Mm,
transformative for you
mm.
that helped you shape kind of your life and your career? And what are one of those mini retirements that you took that was truly defining for you?
Oh my gosh, this is the impossible question. Like all of them, all of them.
Okay.
So here's the wonderful problem with mini retirements is that they're like a Swiss Army knife.
Hmm.
They can do so many different functions, um, and they can have so many different uses. And so it's like, which one was best for the use I used it for?
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
um,
Interesting. Okay.
and this is part of the reason it can improve your career. It improve your personal finance. It can improve your personal life because you can use them for all of that. So
Hmm.
if I look at my finances, there were two of them that we took to buy real estate. So the house I'm living in was a mini retirement project. We took a month off. We bought this house. We got it ready to rent. This was like 11 years ago. Um, and because I'm kind of a numbers geek, so we paid 100,000 for the house. We put another 100,000 into it. And that month off, let's say it cost us, I don't know, 3,000, 5,000, something. Cost us some sort of money. Um, Now the house is worth 500,000.
Wow.
So that, I mean, as far as productive, that mini retirement was $300,000 productive.
Sure.
Our other
Absolutely.
rental house, very similar math. Um, and then I took a mini retirement that I started writing in, and it
Mm.
now 10 years later has created this massive career pivot. So, like professionally, that one was outrageous and incredible. But then there's been ones in my personal development. I took a month off in my 20s to do a month of outpatient therapy, 6 hours a day, super intense.
Wow.
And it's like rebuilding a house from the ground up, like
Wow.
just full on renovation. And I think about my 20s as before that month of therapy and after, because it wasn't just the change that happened during it, which was a great start. It shifted my trajectory of my personal development massively. Like the curve was like this and then,
Yeah,
way up there. So that was like personally great. I took some time off to like when I hit 40 to figure out how to take care of a 40-year-old body. Like it was different than my 20-year-old body. I had to learn how to like eat vegetables and like
sure.
walk more and lift weights and like I couldn't just eat candy for breakfast. Um, that's super helpful for my health long term and like my what I physically am capable of doing. But then I did amazing things with my kids. Like we've done amazing
Oh, sure.
trips and like,
Build such
oh
amazing
my
memories
gosh.
there.
So like, but those are all, you know, doing a renovation for a month, very different vibe than like we did do a 10-week trip to 10 national parks with all five kids in a pop-up camper. Like very different mini retirements, but both of them super incredible in their own way.
Wow, that's just amazing. And I like how there wasn't just one or two. There were so many of them that were
Yeah.
super transformative for you. You mentioned that one of your retirements really did kind of impact you from a financial aspect.
Hmm.
So how do you feel as though mini retirements can really impact your path to financial independence? Like how can someone like realistically achieve
Yeah.
their financial goals while taking these mini breaks?
It's a little counterintuitive on the surface because if we look at the math in, wait, I'm not going to be working, so I'm not going to be earning money, and maybe I'm going to be spending more money. Like,
Hmm.
wouldn't that set me back? Um, but it discounts the fact that when you remove something, it gives space for something else. Like it doesn't create a void that is not filled. So there's two ways that this happens. And it's part of the reason like the book is called Retire Often, not take one epic mini retirement. If you do this consistently, if you apply
Mm,
these mini retirements to these three facets of your personal life, your career, your finances, like it will enrich all three. So one of the ways it really helps with your financial trajectory is that for most people, your best opportunity to get a significant raise comes when you switch companies. The best way to increase your lifetime earning potential is to switch companies. So if
right.
you think it's someone, if I'm talking to someone who's 22, I would say make sure you're taking a mini retirement every 3 to 4 years. And you won't get a massive raise every time, but a couple of those times you will. Like if you do it frequently enough, like those are going to be your biggest bumps. And I had a friend who took a mini retirement, took a year off, came back to a new job, earning 50% more money,
Wow.
which sounds amazing, but it's actually really bad because the reason he earned 50% more money is that he had been at his previous company for 15 years,
Oh, and he was just being underpaid for.
underpaid for a
Oh,
long time. So they're again kind of numbers geek.
right, right.
If let's say he was earning 100,000 and then he came back at 150, he was being underpaid $50,000. Of those 15, maybe let's say for eight, $400,000. Let's say even his mini retirement cost him $100,000. It didn't, but let's say that. Um, that's $300,000. Even if he was in his 30s at this point, late 30s, 40s, not taking mini retirements by the time he turned 60 or 70 cost him $1 million.
Don't. Jillian, you're making me sick to my stomach. Don't.
So much money, and his life was worse for
Oh
it.
my gosh. You
Like,
know,
don't let that be you.
yeah. Well, it's interesting. So my dad he worked at the St. Paul Brewery for 27 years or something.
Mhm,
And the brewery shut down. And so he was like, a 54-year-old guy at the time, right? And he's like,
mhm.
God, I only know how to do this one thing. Who's going to hire an old guy that, this is all I know how to do. And then he was trying to find another job at like 54 or whatever. He got hired by 3M as one of these HVAC technicians around the entire complex. Here, 3M has like a million buildings and stuff here,
Mhm.
making like 30% more.
Yeah.
And he was like, gosh, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? Right. Yeah,
That
exactly.
lifetime earning potential is crazy. It is the compound interest, like future projected. And
Totally.
so making sure you're at fair market value is
Mm,
really important to get to financial independence faster. So that's one way that mini retirements help is that it creates that natural pause and that motivation. It's a reward for switching careers because switching jobs is like it's hard and it's stressful and like it's a little bit of work. But if you've got even a month break, a 3 month break, and here's the thing, like it can be scary, like you mentioned, like quitting without having something lined up. Negotiate that month off in between. Just say, I'm so excited to start working here. I'm available in October. Like, and they're like, oh my gosh, we really need you sooner. You're like, okay, September, but I'm like in 2 months. I need, July and August off.
right,
Um,
right.
it's something that you can build in. And then, so there, I'll do that point A, we'll do a little sub point to
Yeah.
this in that for so many high performers, being really good matters. There are certain
Mm,
professions where being the best is rewarded. And I worked in commission sales. And whenever we were just paid on what we sold, and whenever someone had something hard going on in their personal life, they would come to work and you couldn't tell. They didn't seem off. Like I knew something was going on, but it wasn't apparent that something was going on. And you looked at their client interactions and it wasn't apparent. Their sales were 50% less
wow.
until they sorted out their lives. Like it cost them half of their revenue.
Oh my
And
gosh.
if you think about like a 400-meter dash, if you become 10% faster than everyone else, 10% faster, you don't just win 10% more races.
Right.
You win all the races. If you're
Wow.
10% faster, you win all of them. And so I think you have to, if you're a high performer, it's like I played basketball in high school. You take the halftime. You take the halftime not because you're lazy, not because you're unmotivated, not because you don't care about the game, but because you're massively committed to being a high performer. You're
Hmm.
massively committed to that outcome. You care a whole bunch about this game and you care a whole bunch about that outcome. So you take the halftime to show up for the second half of the game ready to give it your all again. And I think we need to shift that mindset of like rest is for the weak as like rest is for the people who care and who are going to
Yeah.
show up as their very best selves.
Yeah. There was this one book I read called, I think it was called Peak Performance.
Mhm.
And, they're talking about, again, a lot of it was really focused on, pro athletes and stuff, but they did talk about how important
Mhm.
rest
Yeah.
was for these, especially like, Olympic athletes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like you are focusing on just as much as the skill and the strength and the, all the other training, and you got like 17 different coaches. Well,
Yeah.
you're also going to take those rest days to recuperate, to rest those muscles and your mind, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
pretty that's awesome. I love that advice.
So that's an element. Another element is there again, it's a multifunctional tool. A lot of people can use these mini retirements to do extra training, to do extra certification,
Yeah.
to get some education, to level up their soft skills. Like go to Toastmasters, read some books, like do some like leadership training and invest in that, especially for people who outside of their work, there's a lot of demands on them. They have kids, maybe they have aging parents, they have all these other obligations, and their personal life really doesn't allow for like extra professional development. You can take this time and kind of level up in that way. And it really levels the playing field at work. It's one of the reasons I think corporations should mandate a month of mini retirement every year.
Mm,
Because that's how we can create equality in the workplace is by giving people the same access to that kind of training, like giving them the free time to actually do that stuff. Um, so, other side of the spectrum in finances is that you can, especially early in your financial journey, you can use mini retirements as a wealth building activity. If you want to buy rentals, if you want to start a side hustle, if you want to start a business, if you want to create a new skill that could create a source of revenue, and you're listening to the podcast and like you've got these cool ideas, and there's that thing that you're like, man, if I just had the time, I would love to try this. I would love to have like an Airbnb. Like I think I would be awesome at that. If you're working 60 hours a week and you're
Right.
exhausted, you don't have the time, but you also don't have like the mental and emotional bandwidth to really dive into something or to do a career pivot. A mini retirement, you could use a mini retirement to like build that foundation, to kind of build that runway of something that you could then maintain when you go back to work.
Yeah, totally. I think part of it too is, you have all these things outside of work. You have your family. You
Hmm.
mentioned that, mini retirements were very valuable for traveling with your
Yeah.
kids and
Hmm.
you're able to adopt four children. So people with family and they
Yeah.
want to, you mentioned one of your mini retirements was great because you got to travel with your kids in a camper.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious about if you have somebody that is eager to like do these ambitious, personal goals, but
Hmm.
they feel like they're constrained professionally or like financially. Like,
Yeah.
how do you kind of help people along that path?
I always encourage people start with a month. Like
Okay.
it's easy to look at someone doing like a gap year or an around the world trip. I mean, like, oh my gosh, I would love that so much. But that's a little bit kind of like our marathon example. Like, start with a month. Start with something that professionally super easy to negotiate, financially super easy to afford, and figure out the learning curve a little bit. Like, because it you'll learn all the logistics and you'll get better at it in time. Like it's part of the reason
Mm,
to retire often. Every time you do it, you get better at it. It gets easier, it gets more fulfilling. It's like early retirement. Your fifth year will be way better than your first year. Like you kind of figure the stuff out as you go along. And it becomes more meaningful and more enjoyable. So start with something that feels manageable. And I'm kind of like a worst case scenario person, like, make sure you have a plan that can fit the worst case scenario. But the reality is if you want to do this more affordably, so many ways to do it. So many ways to reduce your costs. Um, and and I would, if you're like, gosh, I don't have a ton of extra cash, like no problem. One, you can pick more affordable things, especially in the book. I kind of talk about like the sequence of events and the earlier in your financial journey, front load the affordable items on your bucket list. Save the really expensive stuff to the end. Around the world cruise, you can do that when you're 70.
mm.
Do the road trip where you're camping and sleeping in your car like in your 20s and 30s.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
don't confuse these things. So start with the affordable stuff. But, when I would do these long trips around the country, I rented out my house while I was gone. It was $2,500 a month. That
Sure.
covered all of our travel, like camping fees and gas and all of that was like neutral. I know some people who rent out their apartment or rent out their house and then they go do trusted house sitters or they
Yeah.
do like a work camp volunteer thing in Italy and they have like no housing costs and they actually like come out ahead on it. It doesn't have to be super expensive. I interviewed someone for the podcast. Him and his wife had two kiddos, young kids, lived in a high cost of living area, I think Boston. They moved to France for a year and they spent $40,000 in France. Low cost of living. Their childcare in Boston was
Right.
$40,000.
Oh
Like
my
they
gosh.
spend as much for a whole year in France as they would have if they just would have had their kids in childcare. And yet they had a whole year with their kids in France instead. Like you can find really affordable ways to do this. And it is one of the misconceptions. People think, well, this is for people who earn a lot of money. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, you can't do this if you don't earn much money. This is all proportional. So if you don't earn a lot of money, you don't have a lot of expenses. Like, not much coming in, not much going out. You
Yeah.
don't have that big of a bill to cover. And it's so much easier to cover that bill. I met someone at a receptionist desk and I was there for an appointment and she was like over the moon. She was like telling everyone she had just done this trip. I live in Montana. She was like 22, 24 maybe. She probably made like 2,000 bucks a month because no one around here makes very much money. Um, She had, for the very first time in her life, had left the state of Montana. Very first time. Very first time on an airplane. She took a month and went to Peru for a month. Very first time on an
Wow.
airplane. And so this is like massively life-changing for her. Like
Sure.
her mind is blown by this experience. And she's like telling me like, I didn't even stay in the cities in Peru. Like I went to like the jungle of Peru. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like Paddington Bear. Like you went to the deepest, darkest jungles of Peru. Like this is amazing. But you think about for her, okay, so she had like $2,000 of income to cover a flight to Peru. I don't think the deepest, darkest jungles of Peru are very expensive. So maybe she had to spend or save up 4 grand to cover this amazing life-changing experience. Well, for her, that's what's that like $200 that she had to save
Sure.
for 2 years? You can do that dog sitting. You could do
Yeah.
that babysitting. You could mow a couple yards
Sure.
and cover that and do a month like that every other year. And what an incredible life that would be for someone who probably makes $14 an hour.
Sure. Sure. Well, so that, we've talked a lot about the finance piece of
Hmm.
this. And so what role do you think financial literacy and the confidence play in like successfully navigating this? Because if you don't have those basic financial literacy concepts down, I guess what are your thoughts there? How can you make, a lifestyle full of mini retirements
Hmm.
successful,
Yeah.
but you need to learn the finance piece too.
Yeah. So this is exciting. So non-fi people, because like we love the numbers.
Yep,
So
yep.
for non-fi people, I'm this is another way that mini retirements can increase your path to financial freedom. Is that for a lot of people, they don't care about money. It's abstract, it's boring, it's lame, it's tedious. Like it's a stupid chore that they have to do. And the idea of like save $200 a month and then like in 40 years
Right,
you
I
can
know.
like
It's like,
get the senior citizen coffee in the morning. Like it's so
I
lame.
know. Well, and it's like my kids, in their 20s, they're not thinking about years in advance, right?
No, it's way too abstract. And mini retirements are the perfect carrot for the stick of mini retirements for them because it's a year away, it's 2 years away. They can visualize it. And it's the motivation. Okay, so I need to know what my expenses are. I need to start budgeting. I need to figure out how to grow the gap. I need to figure out how to increase my income a little bit, or I need to figure out how to cut my expenses a little bit. And it's not abstract. You're not eating Chipotle on Friday at your desk for lunch because next year
Mm,
you're going to be eating street tacos in Mexico. Like there
right.
is a direct correlation. You decided instead of the $600 car payment, you're going to get the $400 car payment because in 2 years, you're going to Italy for a month. And you're like, actually, Italy is better than the slightly better car. And it's easier to see the cause and effect of, oh, if I do this one little thing now, I get this thing that I actually really want. And it creates that savings habit and creates that investing habit. And then once you experience those mini retirements, you're like, oh, this is good. I want lots more of this.
Sure.
And then you have the motivation to lean in more like, wait, how can I increase my income even more? Maybe I could reduce my expenses even more. Like, what could this possibly be? And for a lot of people that there's this huge disconnect with money, mini retirements are the perfect clarity and the motivation to lean into this tedious task.
Dude, I love that. I love that. I mean, it's really like understanding your why, right? That's like the number
Yeah.
one thing because
Yeah.
rather than just saving money to have money, no, you're saving money
Yeah.
to do that thing, understanding what
Yeah.
your motivation is.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how do you think, if you look ahead, because you said something in the very beginning that this may become the norm,
Yeah.
the norm, right? So if you look ahead, let's just say, I don't know, the next decade,
Mhm.
right? How do we make that change culturally around personal fulfillment, retiring often, and your work? What kind of changes have to take place like in society? How do you think that's going to
Mhm.
look in 10 years?
Yeah. It's the reason I wrote this book because have you ever heard of like like the curve of like how people adapt to things. There's like the super early adapters, and there's kind of the people in the middle, and then there's the laggards.
That's right. That's right. Crossing the chasm. Yes.
Yeah. Um, I can help the early adapters one on one in a group coaching and in my podcast. They're like, I get the vision, I see it. It's new, it's risky, it's experimental, but like I have the confidence to pull it off. They're the people who buy the iPhone before no one has the iPhone. Like they have that little bit of like risk and like
Yep.
vision
Yep.
that this could be better, and I'm willing to roll the dice on it. I'm never going to reach the middle with one-on-one coaching. So I wrote this book to spread this
Mm,
idea and hopefully create the change in companies. Like a lot of companies have sabbatical programs, but they all could. We can
right,
we
right.
can make all of them have it, and to have them more frequently, have them longer, to where they see, because companies are profit minded. So I put a whole chapter in the book of like, from a financial profitability side on a company, what would it look like if you gave every employee a month off every year?
Hmm.
And I listed out like, here's 10 benefits. Here's 10 ways that this is in your best interest to do
Right.
this. Because I know there's a bunch of people in that middle of that bell curve that, unless it's commonplace, unless it's easy, unless it's safe, unless the benefits are clear and the risk is low, they won't do it. And I want them to have access to this as well. Like, I think it's for everybody. Um, so that, yeah, that's the rock I'm going to push up the hill.
We know that happy employees are productive employees. And you would think that if an organization wants to keep their keeps their employees happy, they're going to be more productive, you're going to make more money. And if you can do that by offering this type of program, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah, there's so many benefits. I mean, there's, I think in retention, because
Oh,
people start to visualize things out. Like, wait, I'm going to get a month off every year. Oh, maybe next year we go to Hawaii. Maybe the year after that we rent a lake house with my parents. Like that could be really cool. Gosh, I always have wanted to learn Spanish in Mexico. Like, what if we did that in 3 years? Why are those people going to leave? They've already pre-planned the next 7 years of epic vacations.
right,
And if
right.
no other company is going to give them the ability to do that, and you're a good company, like, of course they're going to stay. Like, this is an incredible benefit to them, to their lifestyle. And the way you get people to do really hard, impossible things is by giving them time off. Let's look at school teachers. Really, the only way that they survive
Right.
is because they have a little break in the summer.
Man,
Be
teachers, man, they are the unsung heroes, I'll tell you what.
yeah, but even, my previous spouse was in the military. How do you get someone to live in the desert in a tent where people want to kill them every day for
Right.
a year?
Oh my gosh.
You give them a month off. Like you can ask people to do exceptionally hard, difficult things if at some point you give them time off to recover. And if you're in, I talk about, people are like, well, but my career, like it's very like it's intense. It's like, you have to be all in, you have to be super dedicated. I'm like, that's the perfect career for a mini retirement.
Mm,
Say, hey, I took 6 months off. I invested in my personal life. I invested in my relationships. I invested in my health. I got rested up. I'm all in now. I've done that stuff. I've checked those boxes. Now I can be totally focused mentally, emotionally, physically in this job. I can do 60 hours a week. I can do 70 hours a week. And I can work hard. And then yeah, in a year or two, give me another month off. I'll take care of that. And then I'm all in again.
mhm,
If it's a
mhm.
work hard, play hard, like I played hard and now I'm here to work hard,
Right.
and some people love, I interviewed J.L. Collins because he took multiple mini retirements when it was not common, like the
Right.
70s and the 80s. He's like, but that's my work rhythm. I like to work with intensity. I like to be hyper focused. And then I get burned out and I need a break. And then I want to come back and work.
Sure.
It's like the hit training of career. You
Right.
like to work hard and then you want to rest and then you want to work hard.
And what I like about that too is, I've written on the blog about we aren't like our identity is not what we do
Mhm.
because for so long, right, I was just like my identity was my title for my job for years, for years and years and years. And so that was the one big part is like, well, if I leave work, then who am I? Because I don't have that
Yeah.
title anymore. But what I'm hearing, it's like you are so much more because you get all these experiences and you can be more than just what you're doing then. but then now you have this retirement where you're like, I love how you had a story about how you were planting this giant garden of like
Hmm.
trees and stuff. So you could be a gardener, you could be
Hmm.
it could be so many things
I took a
than
month
just
off to learn tango. I'm a tango
right.
dancer now. And I tango DJ, which is like a whole thing.
Wait a minute. That's a thing?
It's a thing and it's so hard.
I had no idea that was even a thing. Oh my
It's a
gosh.
thing.
One of these days, at like a campfire, I want to see you tango DJ.
Well, there's a saying it takes two to tango. So I can do the DJ part on myself, but if I'm gonna tango dance, I we need to find one other person that I can do that with.
Hey, I've never tangoed in my life, but I volunteer.
I teach everyone.
Okay.
I give lessons in the like I'll be in an airport. Like, you want to learn how to tango? Come on out. Like, here we go. Got some music in my pocket, my DJ playlist.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my gosh, this was so fun, Jillian. As we start to wrap up here, I'd like you just to share what is that one thing, like if we have, listeners or those on YouTube, kind of that one takeaway from this discussion today that you would like someone to leave with that maybe thinking about it, they're frustrated maybe with their current role. Like, what's that one thing you want them to leave with today?
Just start getting ready. Like, plant the seed because, it's not even the I'm going to take a mini retirement the next year. Just start thinking about it. Start, obviously buy the book. Like, don't be a weirdo, buy the book.
That's right. That's
But
right.
like, go through the steps, start planning. What could it be like? How could I start networking in my profession? How could I start saving a little bit of money? I have this idea of like a mini retirement go big. Have some plans, have some cash set aside because life might throw you a curveball and you might just not have to go to work tomorrow. And you want to be able to emotionally pivot. But if you start with that intention of, you know what, I think I might do this, life somehow will conspire to help you. Like, it will, once you have that intention, those opportunities will come up, and you just have to kind of like be open to the possibility and start taking steps.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What if you're someone that has a lot of things they want to do?
That's awesome.
How do
Retire
you,
often, man.
because here's the thing. So like I remember I talked to Doc G about,
Hmm.
creating your purpose, but man, I got
Yeah.
so many different interests and so many things I
Yeah.
want to do. And how do you start to narrow down or how do you start to plan a little bit of like what you want to focus on in your mini retirements?
So that's the whole step one of the book is to
Okay.
figure out what do we do for the next mini retirement? Which one makes sense for the next one?
Got
And
it.
so it's a combination of like what feels urgent right now, what feels important right now, where am I in my financial journey, which one maybe fits where I'm at my financial journey. I have people kind of look through I do it like a four square quadrant of your physical capacity, because that might change as you
Oh,
age. You might go
sure.
from high to low, and your financial freedom might go from low to high. So you've got four different boxes of these two elements. Think through which activities fall in which box. Which ones take lots of money and lots of physical capacity? Which ones take little money, little physical capacity, or lots of money, little physical capacity?
Sure.
And which of these activities go where? And then map them out by decade. Which ones make the most sense in which decades of your life? Front load the ones that take a lot of physical capacity because you just don't know. Front load the ones that maybe are more affordable with the idea that compound interest is going to like do a lot of that heavy lifting for you. And so you start thinking about like which one should I do next? Which one makes the most sense to do next? Like, season of my life. What what in my life has an expiration date that I feel
Mm,
coming? Maybe your kids are in middle school or they're in grade school, but you feel middle school coming and you're like, man, if we're
sure.
going to be a road trip, I've got like 2 years to get this done. Do that first. Because you could do like a guy's trip with your friends in 5 years when your kids are in high school and they don't want to hang out with you anyways. Like, thinking about kind of, is there a season in life where there might be an expiration date? Like, your parents are 70 and they're healthy. In 5 years, we don't know. Can they hike
Right.
across Ireland? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
Um, so thinking through all of those different elements, and yeah, it's if you've got 40 ideas, that's awesome. Map them all out. Do 40 different
That's
mini retirements.
I love that. I love that. I'm really excited for people to get their hands on this book. So share a little bit about where people can get more information on you, they can get in touch with you, and when and where can they get a copy of your book?
retireoften.com. The book is available everywhere. I'm there. I have this super unhinged newsletter. I send like maybe I send one email a month, maybe I send two. What are they about? I don't know. No one knows. When will they show up? It's a surprise to all of us. But if you like that sort of thing, and yeah, everyone never know. It's just you never know what's going to happen. On social media, I'm at Jillian Johnsrud. I don't post there a ton, but yeah, retire often. My podcast, group coaching, the book, this weird newsletter that apparently people like. I don't know. I don't know why they like. I should ask. Why do all of you open these emails? It's a mystery to all of us. But yeah, retireoften.com.
Awesome. That's so great. I want to thank everyone for listening today. Jillian, thank you so much for joining me today. This was super fun.
Yeah,
And
thanks for
please go
having me.
like, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and also on YouTube. And we will see you next time on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. See ya.